Legend of the Five Rings is a good game. I'm currently running a campaign, Legend of the Five Rings. I run about every other Sunday. So it's been going at a steady, if slightly slow pace. And I've observed some things that the system does exceedingly well, and a couple of things that the system doesn't do quite as well. And I think lessons can be learned both for importing rules into L5R and exporting them from L5R into other systems. And I would like to make some observations and philosophize about what makes it really good at its job. And item number one, of course, is just that it is highly specialized. You can tell from looking at the mechanics that when Fantasy Flight designed this game, they took some significant inspiration from their other RPG system, Genesis. There's definitely some of the same DNA in there, but this system is like they're not close enough to even be compatible. There's a purpose, an intentionality behind the design to create a gameplay experience. I have talked about this in the past. And that experience is the samurai drama. Between the social attributes, the way that the stress mechanic works, it's a strife, and the way that combat works, it all kind of naturally pushes players in a very particular direction. And that direction is to deeply care about the social structures that are of tantamount importance in this setting. The dice system does a really good job of allowing players to fail forward or to succeed in interesting ways. It is, again, a non-binary task resolution mechanic. I have talked about these in the past, why that's so good. Because you get a number of successes. I think nearly every dice pool system is a non-binary resolution mechanic. So it's got those things going for it. The social aspects are just really, really good. That is owing not just to the core system really supporting creative solutions to problems, with the fact that you can select any of your elemental rings with any of the skills that you have available or that are applicable to the situation. But also to the fact that there's a whole category of social techniques. They're called shuji. These social techniques are things that basically any character can learn, and they give you codified specific benefits in certain situations. And that's a thing that I don't think I've seen any other game do, is to have social techniques, sort of alongside magical techniques and martial techniques. The social techniques is a system that is pretty uncommon, and it definitely indicates, it's a flag to players to say, hey, this part of the game is important. We're dedicating a significant number of pages and text and game mechanics to this part of the game, the social, the intrigue aspect. And that's a thing that you can really, really look at, like, just by page count, how much does the game care about something? That's why in like 5th edition D&D, they've got 2 whole chapters on magic, like one on how the basic rules of magic and one on just the lists of spells. That's a major chunk of the book just on that class feature that not even all classes get to interact with. This has it's got a large chapter on techniques that are broken down by category. The kata, which are the martial techniques. You have the invocations, which are the magical techniques. There's like 2 pages on ninjutsu. So that's a very minor thing. It's there, but it's not a big deal. Because unless you're playing as a shinobi, you're not going to be doing anything with ninjutsu. It's a pretty niche mechanic. But then they also have rituals, which are like, the tea ceremony or cleansing rites, things like that. Things that are like very formalized in like diegetically formal. But then you also have shuji, which are these sort of like subtle techniques that any character can do. Passing a message without making it obvious to anyone else that you're communicating subtly. That kind of thing. Shujis can inspire, they can demoralize, they can do so many different things. They're applicable in combat too sometimes. They're not just for talking situations. It's really versatile, and it's really good. I talk a lot on this channel about like what I don't like about systems. I wanted to take this opportunity to talk a bit about what I do like. So dice mechanics, evocative for, like really good for storytelling, because you can get number of successes, which means you can fail by a little, fail by a lot, succeed by a little, succeed by a lot, but then you also have opportunity results, which can do other things aside from success and failure. So you have these like parallel achievements in every role. You have social techniques. You have versatile skills and attributes that allow you to combine them in interesting ways depending on the situation. And like all of this is just mechanics and stuff. The setting itself does a lot of heavy lifting with regards to how enjoyable these games are. If your players are invested in the setting, this can be... L5R is, frankly, the most intense role-playing experiences I've ever had. Multiple times. Like, my top 3 are all in L5R games. It's just a really, really cool, evocative... Like, I'm running out of adjectives here, man. It's just really, really good. It's superb design. Peak design to achieve the type of gameplay that the game advertises. Now, what does it not do very well? Legend of the Five Rings does not do combat that well. It's passable. Like you can get it done, and even though it's not like super interesting combat mechanics, it does interestingly point players in a particular direction. You don't want to fight, because fighting is very dangerous, especially for like low tier characters. Like everything is so sharp. Oh my gosh. I've had multiple characters die in a duel. Now you have skirmish encounters, skirmish, what are they called? Conflicts, which are for your basic, like my group, my little handful of people against your little handful of people. That's a skirmish. But you also have duels, which is one combatant versus one combatant. And that's actually a lot more interesting. Not only because it tends to have a lot of narrative weight and be important to the story, but also there's new mechanics that are added in that are separate and different from skirmishes that really make the battle more interesting. I love L5R's duels. I recommend looking into them. If you're ever looking to design a duel system, that's pretty good. And then there's also the intrigues, which are pretty analogous to skill challenges and other like, fill up the clock type scenarios. There's not a whole lot of like new ideas there, but it really leans on the solid foundation that L5R has with its mechanics. Intrigues, pretty good. It also has a mass battle system that is weirdly also more evocative and more fun to use than its regular skirmish battle. Again, you don't usually use that very often because most of the time the best stories for samurai dramas are very like intimate and personal. And so you're not usually interacting with warfare like the mass battle mechanics do. So, let's see. Yeah, combat's not that great. That's mostly it. That's the only real complaint that I have with L5R. I play, by the way, in case you haven't been able to tell from the description, I play 5th edition of Legend of the Five Rings RPG. This is the one published by Fantasy Flight. Now it is being published by Edge Studios. I never played any of the AEG versions. I don't have any opinion on them. I've not heard good or bad things about it. I love the setting, but I have not explored those mechanics at all. So, yeah, that is why Legend of the Five Rings is just an excellent RPG if you're looking for a deep, socially oriented samurai drama. I describe it as an ocean of intrigue with little islands of violence. I recommend looking into it, especially like if you haven't heard of the setting Rokugan. Man, you gotta try it. It's a trip.